Hello to one and all, and welcome back to a Ghostman tutorial. Yes, that is some rail I do have in my hands. So what are we going to do? Well, if I got rail in my hand, let's have a look at my inspiration. Let's go and have a look at it quickly, and then we'll go from there. There it is. Now, this is going to look familiar to a hell of a lot of you. Now, yep, it's Exuma Void's railway station, which is producing cactus, which is where you would select where you wanted to on the item frame, and then you would come along and these tracks will change accordingly. Now, what I've done is I've gone and created it so these tracks are a little bit more spaced out, so they're not so close together. And a lot of people in his comments were saying you couldn't go south and east, only north and west. Now, over there, as you can see, that's the station, and that's west, I believe, and that is east. And you can indeed go in all directions. It just takes a lot of work, just a little bit of working out, and just to pay attention to what the track is doing. So all you would do on here, so you would select 5, you would press the button, and a sign pops out. Try again. There we go, and the cart will then be sent off, and then go down track 5. What I've also built into this over here is there's just a pulse extender, which is going to, after you've gone down the relevant track, the tracks will return to their default position, because otherwise if you don't put it back into its default position, when you come back along the track, you're going to scoot off in any other direction other than the hub. So let's go and have a look at the design over here. So as you can see, there's one layered on top of each other just to show you. So here we go. I'll bring up the facing. So that's the north facing, that's the south facing, so that's the one underneath, that's west, and that is east. So what I've done on here is I've labeled up which way we want to go. So I want to go to 15, so we put it on 15. Now, so that's that way. So what I've done is put a corresponding button to face that way. We could jump in, and it should be the one before the last. There we go. And if you watch, the track should all then reset, like so. So when you come back, you should go straight back to the hub, straight into the cactus, and you're there. And it works in both directions. So 11, we'll go to track 3. Car pops out. There we go, track 3. The reason why I prefer them to be more spaced out than what Exuma Void had it is just makes life a lot more easier. And I've just noticed my frame rates are stuck at 30 frames per second. I'll check on the options in a minute. But yep, you would go along, track resets, fairly simple design. As I said, you can in theory go quite far as long as there's loaded chunks with actually spacing these out. But just bear in mind, when you put a pulse extender on there, you'll need to make it so you allow for the distance. Now, the other thing I've done on here to actually try and explain what is going on here is over here. So there will be a download in the link. Is an explanation of how it works. So it tells you about the item frame and the readings you get off the back of an item frame, and then on to how I've gone and extended the rails between each track. And then again we go on to explaining the differences with track facing north, track facing south. Now the way I got around with it is I've noticed when I was doing it, I was just like, when I saw people were commenting saying, you can't go east, you can't go south, how silly of you not to mention this. It's just like, did anyone actually notice how the track was behaving? So all you had to do was invert the track. So anything south or eastbound, you invert the power. So when it's in its normal position, the power should be on to get it to face the normal way. That's all you had to do, and it's not complicated. It's just a little bit more long-winded. So what we're going to do in a minute is we're going to build the station, and we're going to build a few runs going off from both directions. I don't see the point of going and doing a 16-way station, but as you can see, once you get to a point, it's just tiling it, and that's all to it. And then this is the pulse extender at the back. Yeah, it looks more complicated than it is, especially with all the comparators, but it isn't, I assure you. So it should be making it a lot easier for you. Yes, it is expensive in resources, but depending on how far you get the track spread out. If you get it narrowed and everything like that, you won't use so many comparators. So I think the first thing we need to do then is we need to go on to step 1, and then I will show you how to start with the station, and then we'll build from there. Alright, here we go. Okay, so stage 1, all we need to do is you build out this little platform. You don't need to worry about the back bit, it's just purely for decoration and hiding the wires underneath, so everyone knows how to do that. But I've gone and made it 7 wide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 long, okay? Now I've gone and cut these holes out here, because then as you can see that corresponds to the track. Now you'll notice the dips in the track, but I will explain that as we go along. That's going to be the cactus. So what we need to do is we'll put in our dispenser here, which is going to dispense our items. We then put some track on top of that. We then need to go below it. Oh. Like so. Because the reason why we need to have the track dip is so when we have our piston that pushes out, it's not going to break the track, it's just going to stop it, so it provides you with that block to propel you offwards. So that's all that is there for. I'm going to go over this way. So you just go like that, and then some track like so. Now what we need to do over this way is we bring, that's going to be our track coming in for the eastbound, and that's our westbound. But we do need, in fact, to do the hoppers, which I haven't got space on my bar. We don't need the power rail now. So all you need to do is, obviously, once the minecart breaks up, you want it to feed back straight into the dispenser. So if we go like so, and then obviously shift clicking on your hoppers to make sure they form a link between each one. Now this is the bit where we go curve our track round. Sometimes you have to play around with it to make sure it works properly. We'll get rid of that, like so, and then we'll put our power rail back in. There you are. So I tend to hide my hoppers under some carpet. So we'll get some carpet. Not a dispenser, that's for sure. There we go. So that just hides it under there. And then what we need to do is we need some sand for our cactus to sit on. Okay, there, like so. And then we need to obviously put a block underneath for the sand to sit on. There we go, so sand sits on top of there, and on top of there, with a cactus growing on top of there, like so. Now, you may want to put something on top of these to stop the cactus from growing. So now what we got to do is put in our buttons. Now, when we put in our buttons, we must remember we want the signal to go down, so we're going to have to slab some of this area that I've already done. So that's incorrect, it should be that one. That's right. The reason why I'm building on top is just to remind me of where to put things. There we go. So that's going to be our button going one way, and then this is going to be our button going the other way. It just makes life a little bit easier when building it as well, because you obviously know then to press this button to go that way, press this button to go that way. So put them always on the way it's going to face. Now we need to build up this back wall here and the side walls. So once you've built up your little area like so, because this is going to be our selector area. The sidewalls I'm only going to build up to 2, because obviously you understand how that's going to work. But with this one here, we need to make sure we have sufficient space. Like so, and then we need an item frame, which I got rid of my hotbar. And we need a redstone torch is what I tend to choose because it's a lot easier to understand which way it's pointing. Like so. So that's going to be our selector. Then that is going to be station 1 and also number 9. So I always overlap them like that. You may want to reconfigure how you do it. So again, 2 and number 10. So then you just go around like so, creating your sign so you know which way it's going. You could probably name it wherever it's going. So actual destinations. And we get in there. And I think my keyboard is, nope, there we go. 8 and 16. So there we go, that's 16 tracks. As I said, you can go in multi-directions. There's no real reason why you couldn't. But I feel 16 stations coming off from this, I think that's more than sufficient to show for the tutorial. So we're only going to do up to 4. So we're going to do 2 that way, 2 that way. But it just gives you a demonstration of how that works. So let's put some buttons now on these items here. There we go. So that is the station part complete. So now what we need to do is move on to stage 2. So let's go to stage 2. Okay, for stage 2 we're going to hook up our pistons, which is the blocks that are going to help us move off in the correct direction. So where I've held it either side of one section, you put your sticky pistons in these gaps like so. Now for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make sure we're color coded. So that's going to be the yellow button, so that's going to be there. And then on the other side is going to be the purple button. Now the way I've wired it up, we're going to need a slab in these places instead of the blocks. So all we do is put a slab like that. The reason why we put a slab there is to allow for separate lines. So then what we need to do is down below is go like so, and we're going to bring the line out this way. We're going to put a block on top of there, and then along this line here, if I remember rightly. So then what we need to do is just wrap it round this corner like so, and then here, oh, one more further, like so. Nope, I've gone and done that wrong. It is actually that way. And then what we do is we put our redstone torch there to turn that off. Then we'll put a repeater in there just to make sure the signal is strong enough. And we lead a line of redstone down here. Now if I remember rightly, you need to put 2 repeaters here, because there'll be signals coming through these boxes at times, so you don't want it to activate that. I put a repeater there to obviously increase the signal when it goes through the block, just to make sure it's strong enough. Don't necessarily have to, depending on how strong the block is. And if I go like that, so then that should now link up to our yellow piston, which it does. And it's brilliant. So now what we need to do is do our purple piston. So if we go down here, we need to again put a block here with a bit of redstone, nope, a redstone on. And then go down again, back to here, and again a bit of redstone. And then we just need to bring it on round this side like so. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the signal up here. And again, some pistons, some redstone torches, and under here, we just need to get the signal to go into the block. And then we just need to run a redstone line along here. We'll place a repeater here just to increase the signal again, just to make sure. And then finally a repeater going into there, and then that should then activate that piston there. So let's have a look. If we press this one now, we get that coming out. Brilliant. So now on to stage 3. Okay, now with stage 3, what we're going to work on is obviously the dispenser, and obviously to turn off the rail and on again when we actually require it. So we know the dispenser is behind this block here, so if we bring out a block there and put a repeater on top, we then simply just run 3 blocks on either side with some actual redstone along the top. That's all you need to do. So when those the pistons activate, it's going to dispense a minecart. So then what we need to do along the sides here is we just need to bring out a piece of track, some blocks this way, and like so, and we'll just bring it along here, and then up again to run along the side of here. So this is where we are going to run our pulse extender off, as well as activating the track and disengaging the track. Now when you go past this block, what you need to do is put a repeater, because obviously there's going to be a signal going into this block, and if you don't, there's going to be power coming out, powering this line, and it's going to stay activated. So again, on the other side, again, this block, put a repeater there, like so, and we go down here, so we form a line, and then along here, we just run a simple line like that, with like that, and a torch there. So that track will now be on as a normal state, and we put a repeater there and some redstone dust. So now that should all activate. So if we come back round here, we will take the carpet off. So that should now be in the dispenser. So if we want to go that way, press the button, dispensers, and then it should go off, like so. So that is now stage 3 completed. So now it's on to stage 4. Okay, with stage 4, we're going to just sort out the comparator side and the pulse extender. So what we need to do is just bring a few blocks out from here. This is where the item frame is, so we need to bring a comparator. There you go, so it's already receiving a signal. We're going to leave this as a gap and then put 2 lines of redstone here. Now I'm going to put a green block here because it's part of the pulse extender, and then that block there. There you go, got a signal straight off the bat. So now what we need to do is we need to go down a little bit and down a little bit more. So these are eventually going to be your lines going out to your rails, but for the moment we're going just to bring them out this far, and then once we bring onto the rails, that'll be the separate part to it. So to get the reading from here, we need to put a comparator there, go down, comparator here, comparator there. So these are going to take readings off each of these lines of redstone. That's how you're going to bring it down. There we go. So that is basically the comparator trail done. So now what we need to do is go down here. We bring it out 1 block. We're going to go 2 like this. We're going to put a series of 6 repeaters, 6 comparators. We're going to bring a repeater this way to stop it feeding back into the system. We're going to put some redstone there, and then we're going to come out 1 more again, and then we're going to put a repeater there, some redstone here, and then all we do is a simple pulse extender with some comparators, like so. And then all we need to do is a torch tower leading up. So we're going to put torch, etc. You can make this a lot more compact. I'm not a fan of making everything compact, because let's face it, the world's not exactly small, so why make it struggle? There we go. So that should in theory be on. That is correct. So when we run this line coming across here, that should disengage the system. So like so. So now if we press the button, we should see, if we're quick enough, there we go. So it activates the comparator, the clocks will slowly, the pulse extender will disengage, and then it will reset all the tracks. So that works perfectly. So the next bit is sorting out the tracks. So we'll start with the north side, and then we'll work our way on to the south and east side. So here we go. Okay, for stage 5, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So what you want to do is, however you want to bring your rail out. So this is where you can decide which way you want it to go. This one I'm going to go this way, like so. So this can be totally random. It's not complicated to get sorted. We'll go along here for this one as well, like that. And then all we have to do, let's lay our track along the top. I'm going to use quite a bit of powered rail. There we go. And then when you do these corner bits, make sure you do them first, just to make sure there's no confusion of which way you're going to go. And again, over here. And we'll even run another line. I'm only going to do the 2 lines on each side. It's pretty much tileable then. You can do whatever you need to do from there on. There we go. Now we've got to be careful of that one. We might add additional power into the circuitry, so we'll just be careful there. So what I would do then is come along to each of these junctions, place a block out, so like that, and then put a dollop of redstone, because that is what's going to control the way that track flicks, okay? So what you do is you place it on the opposite side of that. So again here, we come out like so, and a dollop of redstone on the side there. Now what we need to do is bring our comparator line down to here, and then we run it along, and I'll show you how to flick it over, etc. Okay, what we do from there is we need to get our comparator running into this block here. So we're going to have to work this out. And again, this is totally, however you lay this out, we just got to work it out as we go along. I'm actually going to come down one more here. And on the first one, you don't need to worry about adding a furnace, as the furnace is not required for the first block. There we go, so that would go like so. And then if we go place a redstone there, are we in line with that block? Yes, we're in line with that block. Comparator feeding off there to there. We'll just keep this line going. And then comparator then going into there. So that then all links up into that block as so. So that is your first link done in the junction. So then what we need to do is we need to go across to this next one. We'll do a line going across, and then we need to get it to line to that one. There we are. Now this is where, for this one, we will need to take out some redstone, so some of the power going through the circuit. So we'll work that out in a second. But first of all, we're just going to go, I just prefer to go just comparator, block, etc. But you might want to, as I said, space it out. And then in this corner here, we're going to have to have a bead of redstone. See, that's why you got to be careful of those, because we don't want that powering anything. So when you're going along, just double check everything as you go through it. Then we go like so. And then what we do here is comparator. Then off the side, this is where we do a furnace, and then a comparator going in. That one has to be on subtract mode then. Okay, so the light's got to be on. And we're going to put a dollop of redstone in there. Then that's what that is going to do, is subtract 1 from the line. So that should in theory be that side sorted. So if we now put this on 2, we should see a change. Oh yes, we have to press our buttons, don't we? I've got to remember that. There we go. So you see how that's now changed? And that one's in place. So that is how you do the northern and western line. Next we have to do is we got to do the southern and eastern line. So what I'm going to do is we'll stop a minute and then we'll go to the next step. Alrighty, for the southern routes, it is slightly more different. It's a little bit more complex to work this one out. But again, we're just going to select random directions to go in here. Again, we're going to do it for a couple, and then we'll test it again like we just did with the northern line. There we go, I think that's more than adequate. We'll just bring this out here. And again, we'll come along. Now this is where it gets interesting, because it's going to go like that. As we've already discussed previously. That's the way it will link up until we put power into it. And we'll continue laying down our rail a second. And then there we are. I must remember to keep putting powered rail down. There. So there we are. So again, likewise with what we did on that side, is if we come along again, put our dollop of redstone under here, like so, and a dollop of redstone under this one. And then what we can do is, I'll just quickly show you it actually in work. So if we put a redstone there, so we're just going to invert our signal, see, switch back, and there we go. So that's all we got to do now, is we're going to bring our comparator line down, but when it goes into this block, it has to be an inverted signal, okay? Okay, so what we need to do now is we just need to invert these lines. like so. So what we're going to do is we put a redstone torch there, and if we put a repeater there, it's going to go straight into that block like so. And again, on this one, we'll do exactly the same. There we go, so that goes there. So now those lines should now be inverted. There we are. So they're now inverted, so they're actually facing inwards. Now this is the tricky bit, because what we got to do now is we have to make sure we get a signal into this block to actually turn off the actual redstone lamp. So what we'll do is we'll bring our line down, and if we grab that like so, and then we'll put a comparator running into there like that. And again, here is going to be slightly more different because we got it on the other side, is if we have our comparator running into that block, and then like so. But then we'll have a line of redstone here, and then a repeater coming off that redstone like so. So when this gets powered, that should then flick over to the other way. But with this one again, what we need to do is we need to subtract. So we put it on subtraction, we then put a comparator coming off the furnace, and we place an item in the furnace to take one line off. There we are. So then if we come along here, so then this comparator line, we can just go comparator again, block, and then a comparator, and that should be that line sorted. So all we have to do now, this is the tricky bit to make sure it lines up and connects correctly. So if we go like so, with a block here, with a dollop of redstone, and then if we put a comparator here to send the signal through the block, we now just have to join that up there. So if we go block down, 2 across, comparator, and then some redstone, that should now all be lined up. So if we go back over to our turntable, which should be on 1, if we set it to 2, because we've got 2 lines here, we should notice that flicks, and then that will stay open. So that's like that. If we set it to 3, like so, and again press our button, it should go on to the main line then. So we're going along, there you go, all switched over. So yes, this bit gets a little bit complicated, but you have to adapt it to your world and however you set these lines out. If you want even spacings or further away spacings, it just gives you the freedom to do what you particularly want to do. But that is it. So then you can range it on from there to create these magnificent 16-way junctions. And it is impressive, I must admit. But you could even do 4-way junctions, so you could do 32 ways of junction. It just takes a little bit working out. But I think for this tutorial, 16 junctions would be well enough. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to finish up. So, I love you guys lots, and I very much appreciate you watching, and I do apologise about the drilling in the background. That is our neighbours having some work done, but you have been amazing. Thank you for watching, and I hope this explains a lot. Thank you for watching, guys. Goodbye, and bye!